family of the victims killed in a double murder up in Allen County are sharing their photos. Matthew Johnson and Christina Dixon were found dead in a river. And yesterday here at noon, we told you about a court document that credit the two with tipping Richmond police off about a major amount of drugs. Well, there's been a bit of confusion about this. Richmond police later told 13 News the two were not working as informants when they were killed. However, they say they can't rule out that the two never worked for police. The suspect in their killing, Dominique Washington, has been charged with their murder.
This is the man police arrested, Dominique Washington. This all began when police in Fort Wayne pulled two dead bodies from the St. Mary's River. Both have been wrapped in trash bags, and police say both had played a role in a drug warrant served just 10 days earlier. Fort Wayne detectives identified the two as Christina Dixon and Matthew Johnson, both of Connorsville. When they called Richmond police, authorities there told them Dixon and Johnson were confidential informants and had been reported as missing. Detectives used cell phone data to track their past locations. Surveillance video showed them getting into a car with another man. Witnesses identified the man as Dominique Washington, who Richmond police say is a known drug dealer. Authorities say Dixon and Johnson had led them to the search warrant for a home belonging to someone connected with Washington. Police arrested Washington during a traffic stop on Monday evening. They say based on their investigation, they think Washington lured Dixon and Johnson into a car, forced them to turn off their phones, then forced them into another car. Detectives say Washington shot one of them and strangled the other, then dumped their bodies in the river.
Welcome to Urban Crime Chronicles, where we bring you nothing but the truth. Christina Dixon and Matthew Johnson never knew that they would find themselves wrapped up in garbage bags and thrown into the Fort Wayne River. But stranger things have happened. Sometimes addiction clouds your mind, and you never really know how much danger you can be in. But for Dominique, he had a plan for the two people that were working with the police. Volunteers in downtown Fort Wayne were out to clean up the area when they found two large trash bags in the water near Golden Park. They had found bags before, but these ones were different. They were a bit heavy, and they needed help from others to get them out of the water. Inside the bags were the bodies of a white adult male and a white adult female. Both had taken their last breath. But what were their crimes? Were they crimes against the streets? Sometimes people work with the police, looking for a couple dollars and helping destroy lives, believing that the police will always protect them. But once they are out of the cop car and on the street, back doing what they've been doing, shit can get real. And for Christina and Matthew, it got all the way real. On September 10, 2024, motivated by a little money so they could get high, they would help get the information needed to secure a search warrant on their local drug dealers. Cops would seize drugs and money, and with it, some people were angry over the laws. Christina Dixon would find herself strangled and suffocated. Matthew, he would put up a fight knowing that he could lose his life if he didn't. His fight, though, was simply not enough. Police would find him shot and then stabbed. His life, forever gone, forever stamped out. Rooster Dominique Washington was on the mission, and he was tied up in a web called the streets. The cops taking his shit had him angry, and now there were consequences to pay. Rooster knew that it was them that got his spot hit, and he was plotting on them. Not hard to trick the two who were engulfed in addiction. He could lure them in with the promise of a quick high. Rooster would reach out to his customer and his enemy, Matthew Johnson. The two would meet up at the Genesis apartment in Richmond on September 19th. On the back of Matt's motorcycle was his girl, Christina. They were being lured to pay for their sins, for working with the police. Skeptical, the two knew what they had done, but wanted to play things cool. Matthew had Nico, bro, on his phone contacts. It would be his last ad. Nico was putting things in motion, but leaving evidence everywhere connecting him to what he was about to do. He would call one of his other customers and ask him to come to the apartment complex to give him a ride. The man said he picked up Rooster and a white male who later identified himself as Matt Johnson. He said that he had then went home and allowed Rooster to use his car for the rest of the day for a small portion of drugs. Wanting no issues with the cops when they showed up, he would get on his first 48 shit and later positively identify Washington as Rooster. Dominique, who some called Nico and others called Rooster, had both Matt and Christina in the car. He just rented for drugs, and they drove away. He would point his pistol at them and order both to turn off their phones. "You think this is a motherfucking game? Don't play with me," he would yell. Matt knew that things had just gotten all the way bad. Christina was scared beyond belief, but did not believe she was about to die. But in fact, she was. Y'all motherfuckers want to tell on people? Nah, man, we didn't tell on no one. What are you talking about, Nico? Come on, bro, that ain't true, Matt would say. Before long, Nico became a killing machine. He would end up in a scuffle, stabbing Matt as Christina screamed, and then the fighting was over, as Nico became God, shooting Matt, taking his life. You're next, he would say as he made his way to Christina. He would grab her by the throat as she tried to fight back, but it meant nothing. Nico would squeeze her last breath out of her. Nico would stay the course. He would put both in garbage bags and switch cars heading for the St. Mary's River in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Panic and reality had set in because he started to see he did not have the perfect plan. Too many people had known his business, from the dude that he rented the car from to the people Matt and Christina talked to. Family members knew something was going on, and they decided to call both in as missing persons. Police would track Matt, Christina's phones, which led them back to the Genesis Apartments in Richmond. Surveillance footage from the apartment complex, which showed that Johnson arrived at the apartments around 4:19 p.m. on his motorcycle. The next day, a white car is seen pulling into the parking lot and driving away with Johnson's motorcycle. Matt's bike, gone in the wind. Matt is then seen shaking hands with a black male dressed in all black, police would say. Johnson and the man then got into a gray Dodge Avenger. Another woman would tell the cops that Christina was at her house around 4:45 p.m. when she received a call from Matt, telling her to come on outside. The witness would tell detectives that Christina then walked through a few yards before saying, "Don't worry, I'll be back soon," and getting into a silver car, which she would never return. Soon after, police said both Matt and Christina's phones went off network. Detectives were later able to recover the phones after another witness said he found the devices in a trash can near his Richmond residence. More people would come forward. The streets were already talking. Another person would say Nico, who drove a silver car, was possibly involved in Matt and Christina's abduction. They were then able to identify Nico as Dominique Washington, a known drug dealer in the Richmond area. Once on Nico, cops would run his phone records and other evidence that showed he had driven between the two cities the day after Christina and Matt disappeared. With witnesses and evidence, cops would surround Nico's house on Campbell Avenue at 9:30 p.m. He thought he heard something. Then he thought he'd seen them. In fact, he did. They were here. "Put your fucking hands up! Get on the ground!" And then before long, he was cuffed, charged with 2 counts of felony murder, kidnapping, and failure to report the discovery of a body. He had been to jail before for robbery with a gun, beating on people, and pointing guns at people. But this time, his life had just got real. Cops cannot always save you. And not at 29. The cops can't save Nico either. But the judge will likely send him to prison for the rest of his life. He will likely never see the streets again. The streets love no one. Leave a comment and tell me what you think. Is it crazy to kill 2 people at the age of 29 over some drugs getting seized? Your life forever gone.